or something that you came across while you were practicing? Yeah, does anybody have any questions? If there are none, we'll go straight to today's business. Okay, I'll take that as a no. Take that as a no. So for today, we're going to, please, I don't know, confirm that you guys can hear me since I'm not getting.
Sorry, Yinka. Lara has her hands up.
Okay,
Lara,
Lara.
you have a question. Yeah. Do you have a question, Lara? Go on. You can unmute and speak. Lara, are you there?
Maybe she's having network issues.
Okay.
Yeah, Lara, we can hear you now. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes. So two questions. First of all, I want to thank you, mentors, for taking your time out to lecture us. So I had read the I was trying to do that date query for myself. I remember the last class, the mentor had said there was a place where you could do copy and paste, maybe like the formula or the
If you want to
calculation.
use the M code.
Yes.
Okay.
So I watched the video, but I really didn't get it. And I know that yes, Power BI is like low code, so you don't have to cram all of that, because I was already writing it out, trying to find my way around getting it. I just wanted to know if when I need to use dates in probably a new database, how do I comfortably do that? And not just that, I know I was practicing, but how do I comfortably put dates on my database or on a project I'm working on?
Okay,
That's my different question.
So there are different ways to create a date table that we also spoke about in the last class. And one of those ways is using the M code one, yeah? And because this class is not a programming class, we decided not to take you through the nitty-gritty of what makes up that M code. And that's why she just went ahead to copy what a lot of us Power BI developers do anyway. We Google M code for date table, you'll find a ton of them online. You copy and paste them and they create a date table for you. So before I go for that, were you able to use the other methods, the calendar? Yes, so for example, hold on, let me share my screen. Hold on, let me share my. You don't have to try to. A lot of people have written the code online, so you don't have to try to write it from scratch by yourself. You can just find one online. So for example, I open Google and I say M code for date table in Power BI. Yeah. I'm going to just find a ton of them. I'm trying to find the best site to use. So this is one. I can just copy this code and put it in my Power BI, for example. So, oh, wait. This seems to have. There's really quite a ton of them that you can find online, but let's try to use this first. So you copy this code and then you go to your Power BI and say, for example, I want to use a new table. For this table sample. Okay, sorry, no. Let me not use a new table. Let me use an old table. Let me use the old data table that we already have. Let me just create another column. I create a new column and I say, yeah, I think it was through get data, then you say blank query. Yes, then you paste that query here. So you can see the full query here. This code doesn't look correct though, but let's try it. Just try it. Oh, okay, main table. So I have to use any of the tables that we have here, which is sales details. So now you can't copy this. You can't copy these things. Can't just copy and paste them blanket. But I think the one we used that day, let me look for that particular one. The one we used that day has that code, just the way you need to use it. I think I saved this somewhere here one time. You know what? Not to keep going around with this. The way it works, you just copy that code. You copy that code online, and then you can use it to. You can just put it in your Power BI and then use it to create a. I'm trying to find the perfect code online, but I can't seem to get it now. But like there are a lot of places where you can find those M codes and just copy and paste it. However, that is just one of the ways. The easiest way is really to use the easiest way is really to use calendar or calendar dates. And what that does for you is, sorry, calendar or calendar auto, it still generates the same the same dates that you need, Okay, I'm just also going to send you this link. This is quite long, but it explains like all of the steps on if you insist that you want to use, if you want to use M code to create your date table. I will just copy this link and put it in the chat box. But what I was asking actually was that, do you understand the other methods, which is using calendar and calendar auto to create your date table? If you don't understand that, we can go through that. But those are like the more advisable ways to create your date tables other than using this M code. So do you
Okay, thank you.
understand
I
that
get that.
using,
So I'll use this the calendar auto. So
okay. You can use calendar or calendar auto. The difference between calendar and calendar auto is that with calendar, you can specify the minimum date and the maximum date that you want your date table to cover. But when you use calendar auto, you don't specify anything. It automatically picks the earliest dates and the latest dates that you already have in your model or in your data. Wherever you have dates in your data, it just picks the minimum date and the maximum dates there and uses it as a start and the end date. But if you want to specify the dates yourself, then you use just calendar. And that is a bit more pretty straightforward. The only difference with that is also that it just gives you all the dates. So if you now want to have month, quarter, year, and all of that, you have to then manually add all of those to your date table. So does anybody have any other question from all of the things that we've done last week or in the previous weeks? Okay. So today we're going through, or we're talking about analyzing data in Power BI, yes. And you might be wondering, what have we been doing since? I want to be analyzing data. But there are things that you can do when you're building your visuals that show that you have actually taken time to analyze the data, and then you're not just pouring out the data, like you're giving out the data and you're showing the insights that you want people to see when they look at your data. And that's what informs like the kind of charts that you're using, and then some other things that anyway that you can add to your data preparation and all of that, just make them look better. So for example, I'm going to, okay, I'm still sharing my screen. So of course I'm using the sales copy, or what was the name of that? The same sheet chart that we've been using before. So I tried to do all of the things that we've done before, imported the data, calculated total sales and total cost. I also calculated profit. I don't remember if we calculated, I think we did, calculated profit and all of that. And I created also created a date table here. So we have all of that. So right now, I'm just going to like start to build some visuals and then show us some of the things that I wanted to show us. So for example, I say I want to say profit by say state, and then I say profit by state, and then I have this long list of, yeah, maybe I tried to put it in a bar chart, which is perfectly okay. And then I have this long list of states, all of them. And sometimes for a business, yeah, profit, like you want to see all of the profit, but sometimes you want to see just the most performing ones instead of just seeing all of them. For example, all this Ocean Kano, they just look like, for a business person, it just looks like they're not really significant to the business. So you want to show either just the top 10 or just the top 3. Or for example, you're doing some sort of evaluation in the company and they're saying, we want to do an award or stuff and we want to know our top 10 or top 3 most performing states, and then you have this, and then you can, of course, you can share this visual like this, and people can look at it and start counting. Okay, 1, 2, okay, Bonyokwara, Delta, and then when they count up to 10, they know that we've gotten to the top 10. But why do you want to put them through all of that stress when you can just show which one of them are the top 10? Okay, this profits, the call out is not showing. I don't like how it's showing. Let me change the format for profit, sales details. It's not a column. I added it as a measure. So I'll just come here to profit. Okay, the format is whole number. So I'll change to currency and 2 decimal places. So I guess it should be showing well now. Yeah, so it has currency and 2 decimal places. So now I want to show top 10 instead of just showing all of them. How do we achieve that? You come here to format your visual. Sorry, come here to filters. And then you can already see here states is all. So I want to say, I don't want to see all the states. I want to see the top whatever states. So this is top N. And if you remember from basic mathematics, where they used to say, for example, formula for something is 2 raised to power 1 plus n, where n is the number of variables or whatever. So that's the same thing that n means here. You say top n, and then you say specify whether you want the top 10, the top 3, the top 25, top. So in this case, I would say top 5. So you still have the flexibility to say, even though it is profits that we're showing, we can actually decide that we want to pick the top 5 by revenue or by any other metric. But in this case, I will just show the top 5 by profit. So you have to drag profit to this place where it says add data fields. By what? Top 5 by what? So top 5 by profit. I just drag profit here. And then I say apply filter. So now we can see what states, top 5 states giving this business the highest profits. And this is easier for anybody than when you just, for example, let me duplicate this and remove the top 5 filter. Control C, Control V. So if I remove that filter from here now and say state, I'll just change it back to clear filter. So, I mean, these two visuals show the profit by state, but one visual makes it easier for anybody to see the top 5 states by profit. So when somebody asks you, like we always say, the whole excess of data analysis is to solve business problems. And when somebody asks you, oh, please, I want to see the how our states are doing by profit, and I want to see the states doing the most profits. And that's why we always also talk about, like, when you're trying to understand the business problem, you may need to also ask questions to verify. So when someone asks you, oh, I want to see what states are making the most profit, you can easily just take it like that and then go and create this visual number 2. And of course, you've done well to sort it by states that it now has largest to smallest. But then a better way to do would have been to ask the question, oh, sir, when the person says, I want to see the states giving us the most profits, then you can go for that to ask, oh, okay, how far down are you looking at? Do you want to see the top 10 or the top 5 or the top 3? And then the person says, oh, top 5 is fine or top 10 is fine. So it's more reasonable for you to then give the person top 5 than just giving this whole jumble of things. Yes, you can see Ebony, Kwara, Delta, or whatever, but it doesn't automatically mean that it's not just easier for him to see like which ones are in top 10 or which ones are in top 5. He has to then count 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever to know where it ends. And then I'll just use this to quickly show where I was saying that you can actually, like, the filter must not necessarily be by profit. So for example, although I don't know if it will come out the same thing, I can change the data field to say sales, which ones are making the most sales. Because for example, the people making the most sales might not necessarily be the one making the same profits. Ebonyi, Kwara, Delta, Eduna, Sarah. Luckily, the ones making the most sales are the ones also making the most profit. So wait, 2, 3, 1, 5, 3, 5, 5. And I want to check if they are really making the most profit. Sales, so sales 46, sales 14, sales 9, sales 6, sales 3. Okay, so yeah, luckily in this case, the ones making the most sales are also the ones making the most profits. But sometimes it's not always the simple. And this, I mean, this can also just help to show things like that. So that's really the purpose of the top end filters. And like I said, you can use it like you can say top 5, top 10, top whatever, top how many that you need according to however you want them, and you will just see all of that. Now, after you have done top 10, you now want to still show you still want to differentiate what's how each of the states are doing. Let me just duplicate this and use sales this time. Sales. So I'll still use by state. So still use by state. But then the next thing that I wanted to explain is conditional formatting. We'll delete this and just use this. So I said sales, so I'll remove profit from here and use total sales. So now we have total sales by state. And conditional formatting is another way to properly make your data more insightful. And how do you do that? Conditional formatting helps you to assign usually different colors or symbols to different categories of data. So like we have this now. Let me do another duplicate so that there's a way I want to use. If I do that, conditional formatting helps you to set rules, for example. And for example, I'll start with so you want to say all these bars right now, all of them are blue. You want to assign a different color to states making a certain amount of profit. For example, sorry, a certain amount of sales. For example, the organization has a budget that every state should make, let me say, 5 billion in sales. If we look at this visual, well, maybe if we add, for example, add data labels, you can say by the time we look at it, we can see how many of them are making more than 5 billion or less than 5 billion. But before you do that, before you know how many are making more than 5 billion, you have to look at all the numbers one after the other and then see that, so okay, there's 5 of them making more than 5 billion. But what if there are not only 36 states? What if there's 100 states or certain number of states? Why do you want people to be looking at it one after the other before they know how many of them are making more than 5 billion? That's the way that conditional formatting comes in. Conditional formatting allows you to set rules that you can use to decide how your visual should look like. And this can work for a lot of things, not just for bar charts, not just for values. It can work for a lot of things, but I'll just use this bar chart to explain about two of the methods to us. So I'll use this, I'll explain two, and then I'll leave one for us as homework. I'll use this bar chart for the first one. I'll use another visual for the other one. So for this, how do you do conditional formatting? After creating whatever your visual is, you go to format visuals, and then what we're formatting is the color of the bar. So you will go to columns. The default color is what we already have, blue. But now I don't want them to be just blue. I want them to be based on a formula or rule. So you click this FX here, you can see conditional formatting, make this property change under different conditions that you define. So you click this FX. Then, like I said, there are different styles of formatting. And how should I do? Okay, I'll use gradients here. Then I will use rules for, is it rules I wanted to say? No. I'll use gradients here, then I'll use rules for another one. So again, it's asking you what field do you want the formatting to be based on? So let me say based on, of course, based on total sales, because it's total sales I want to use. So based on total sales, empty values are 0, yeah. So the lowest value, you can either add a custom value, maybe from 0 to whatever, but I will not use, I will just say start from the lowest value. And this time I want them to go from red. I want them to go from red to green. So let me go and select red there. From red, highest value, more colors. I want green, from red to green. So what this means is that someone is in the lobby. So what this means is that all the values in the bar chart will start, the lowest ones, the colors will start from being red, and as the value is increasing, they'll be going up, and then the highest one will have green. So by the time we, of course, okay this, you will see how it works. Color gradients are not very fantastic for things like bar charts. They're most useful when you're doing something like a map. Okay, since this is states, I might as well just change this to a map and see how it comes out. I want to use a field map. Yeah, I think this is a field map. Yeah. So can you see? Now that I change it to a map, we can just easily see the places where we're making. Already, you can just see this map and you can see this place in the middle that has this very big green. And all the other places are red, 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 red. And you can go back to that this thing, like you can change the color to whatsoever thing you want. What's the place? Visual fill colors. You want to edit the format, continue here. You can have, for example, have a middle color. Let it not just go from red all the way to green. Have a middle color and say you can specify what the middle value is, maybe 5 billion or something. 5 billion. Or just any of the middle value. So it just goes from red and then to green. Sorry, from red and then to yellow and then to green. Of course, you can change this color again to whatever you want. But I think yellow is a good middle. And then you click OK. So you can see that some have changed to yellow now. So these ones are in the middle. Then the ones that have the lowest are red. And the deepness of the red, like the red gets deeper as the number gets smaller, like that. So you can just at a glance see who is making the most money. Like I said, the bar charts is not a good place to use gradients. Gradients are better on like things like maps or maybe even pie charts. Then so you can just see this. Now the other type of conditional formatting that I would do is rules. For rules, I would use a table. And again, the what is the business application of using rules? I'll just explain it first before I talk about the business application. Let me change this to, here's my fields view hiding. Oh, okay, I zoomed. So let me change this to something else. Anyway, let's say leave as sales or profit. Let's change back to profit. But now I want to use by product category. Hopefully we don't have too many categories. How does it have states? Yeah, I said I'm going to use a table for this. So the categories are not a lot. I would prefer if they're a lot. So maybe I will use product name instead. Okay. And I will have profits by product name. It's a long as list. And even though it's already this is a lot. It's too long. Let me use something else. Maybe promotion. Okay, this is okay too. Let me just use this is okay too. Profit by promotion name. So like in the year or in the period under review, we did different promotions. And we want to know which one of them was the most successful. That's which one of them gave us the most profit. So for this one, I'm going to format by rules. So how do you format by rules? Again, like I said the first time, can someone tell me how I got to conditional formatting? It's the same way you go when we were doing for the bar chart. Just that when you get there, you now say what type of formatting you want to do. So this is me checking if we were paying attention. Someone direct me. I've been talking a lot since. I'm waiting now.
We'll click on the icon beside this second icon here. Beside build visuals.
The format icon.
Yes.
Okay. In the bar charts, when we got to formats, we went to columns, which is I think bars. But here we don't have bars. So what do we have instead of bars? What is the thing that we are trying to format?
We have grids, we have rows and columns.
What is the thing we are trying to format? What we're trying to format is the values. And that is what sort of represents bars in this case. So you will go to values. And then in values you can see wait. Yes, I know. Okay. PowerBI upgrades every day. So we don't have it in values, we have it in cell elements, because now they are giving you the liberty to change either the background color, the font color, or to have an icon, or to have even a website, a web URL. So for example, of course, the series is either promotion name or profit. You can change this to profits. So if you change it to profits, that means anything you are changing here is based on what is in profits. If it's promotion name, everything is based on like this promotion name. And I'll do one example for promotion name and one example for profit. So, and I'll do background color. They're saying you can decide that you want the background color to be changing based on, like, what each of these means is that you can decide you can use the conditional formatting to determine that the background color, the font color, or to have an icon by the side, or even a web URL. So I'll just start with the background color. So I'm not going to use gradient. I'm going to use rules, because I said this one is rules. What do you want it to be based on? Now, although this is being applied to the column promotion name, but I can still set the color to be based on what is in the profit column. So I will say based on profit, and then the rules. If the value is, say, greater than 0, no, not percent, number. Hello, can you mute your mic? Are you asking a question? If the value is greater than 0 and is less than or equal to, let me say, 2 billion. I'm using it based on what we have here. So I'll say 2 billion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then let the background color of promotion name be, again, as usual, I'll just use red and green. Red. And then the second rule is if the value is greater than 2 billion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 number, and less than or equal to the max. I don't want to start looking for what the maximum number is. So just say whatever the maximum number is. What this rule is basically saying is that, let me put blue here. You need to be careful how you use greater than, less than, equal to. What I'm trying to achieve here is just that any promotion that has profits of less than 2 billion, less than or equal to 2 billion, let their background color be red. And any promotion that has profits that is greater than 2 billion, let the background color be blue. And that's why you see here, I use based on profits, even though like I said, even though the field we are formatting is promotion name, we are basing the rule on profits. And what this number and percent here means is, for example, if the value you are using for the format is a percentage, you use percent here instead of number. But because it's not a percentage, I'm then using number. So by the time we click OK, you see these changes. So and you can look at it if you want. You can see all the ones doing less than 2 billion in profit. They all have red. And the ones doing more than 2 billion, they all have green. Sorry, the ones doing less than 2 billion, they all have blue. So the same way you can change the font color, you can have icons. I'm going to use the icons for the profit, and you can have a web URL. So now you go back to profit. Profit can change the background color, you can change the font color, you can even have data bars, and then you can have icons too, and then you can have web URL. And the business application that I will use for icons, for example, I keep using performance related because many businesses have a lot of these performance related things, but there are different ways you can also apply it. Okay, I will give a medical example. For example, I know that in medicine, when you go to do a test, there are some, for example, when they're checking your blood pressure, I don't know what the exact number is, but I would just say sometimes they give examples that say, oh, if your blood pressure is between 80 and 100, it's too low. But if it's between 100 and 120, it's okay. Then if it's above 120, it's too high. So you have those kind of ranges. For example, in HR, so they can say, oh, when you do your appraisal, 0 to 60 or 0 to 40, performance improvement, 40 to 60 is okay, 60 to 80 is good, 80 to 100 is excellent. So you have those kind of ranges, and you want to, again, help people when they look at your reports to see immediately how many people are being recommended for performance improvement or how many people are being recommended for promotion. You don't want people to have to look at the numbers one after the other to see which ones are doing well or which ones are not doing well. So you can use things like icons to show that kind of analysis. And the way to do that, like I said, I'm doing this for profit, and then I'm using icons. So you have to toggle this on first. When you toggle it on, you already automatically put some icons there, but then I'll come to this FX to edit the icon to be where I want it to be. So how do I do that? The first thing is, of course, I want to use rules, like I said before. Apply it values only. What field should we base it on? Base it on profit. Where do I want the icon to be? I can change it. If I want it to be on the left or on the right, or I don't even want to show the number. I want to just show me the icon. I'll come back to that, but let me put it to the right. Icon alignment also, top, middle, bottom, whatever you want it to be. And then the style. So there are like different types of icons that you can use. You can use this too. You can use these three. You can use like star, for example, when it's performance related. So all of these icons, and that's why, like I always say, the job of a data analyst is not just saying, it's not the job of a designer. It's not for you to just design something. You need to think of how the thing speaks to the business. For example, if you're doing something that is performance related, I think it would be good for you to use things like stars, like, oh, 0 star, half star, full star. If you're doing something like you're working in the healthcare sector and you're doing things like record of blood pressure or people's blood sugar and all those kind of things, you can use this icon that has X and warning and then green mark. This green check mark, you use it for when the blood pressure is okay. You use this exclamation mark for the blood pressure is not in a bad place, but you need to be careful. So it's like a warning sign. And then this X, you use it for more, you need help, or the blood pressure is already not in a good place. And this other one here is also similar to that. So all of these options are just there for you to use the one that works better for you. And I'll give an example of when you can use, there's this icon. Can we see this one that has red arrows, 3 yellow arrows, and 1 green arrow? A typical example of when you can use this is when you're looking at, for example, year-on-year growth. So somebody who increased from last year to this year. So for example, last year you made a profit of 50 billion. And this year I gave you a target to increase that profit from 50 billion to 80 billion. But eventually you made, one team made 60 billion, the other team made that 80 billion or even more than that. I'll use this green arrow pointing up for the team that made the increase from last year, and then they increased up to the target that was set for them. Then I'll use this yellow for the team that increased from last year, but the increase was not up to the target that was given to them. Then this yellow arrow that is just pointing straight, I'll give it to the team that made the same thing that they made last year. The yellow arrow pointing down, I'll use it for those that dropped from what they made last year. And then this red, I'll use it for the ones that the drop was so bad, maybe it was even less than what they made 2 years ago. So that kind of thing, you just need to use your own discretion to see which ones are doing very well. And then these ones that have bar charts, this thing, you can see it has 4 bars. So you can just use it to do 0 to 20%, then 20% to 40%, 40% to 60%, 60 to 80%, and then 80 to 100%. The same thing as these pie charts. So all of these things are just like, they're applicable in different ways depending on the kind of data that you are visualizing. And that's why you shouldn't just come and pick just anyone. Pick the one that relates most to the data that you're trying to analyze. So in this case, because we are doing profit, we're not doing any year-on-year comparison. So I will just use I'll maintain this one that they had chosen before, or let me use the stars. Let me use the stars. And then you now set the rules. And you can have more rules. You can have up to 4 rules. And then use any icon to depict. See, you can even now select the icon by yourself. Use any icon to depict. Maybe the ones that now performed like really well. You use another icon for them like that. Or the ones that did less than 0. Anything at all is really very flexible. So I'll remove this one. So I'm using this one that they have. And then I need to now set my rules myself. Now, because I can see the numbers that are available in the data, I can just create a sort of grouping. I can create a sort of grouping. So for example, I can say the first group will be between 0 to 2 billion. The second group will be between 2 billion to 10 billion. And the last group will be above 10 billion. So I'll just come here and say if it's greater than, it's always safe to use the minimum because there can be a number less than 0. So except you are just doing negative and positive. So I'll say minimum. And I would reduce it from, of course, it's not a percentage, so I'll use number. So now, do you understand why this has percent? Like I was saying, if it was like a performance-related thing and people's scores are like 20%, 30%, you will use percentage. But because these are not percentages, I'll use number. So greater than the minimum and is less than or equal to, so because since I said 0 to 1 billion, so I'll put 1 billion here. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I'll change this to number. So all of them will have this transparent star. Then again, I always say, make sure that you're using this, your less than equal to, very carefully. Because for example, here, I already said less than or equal to 1 billion. So I cannot come here again and say greater than or equal to 1 billion. Because if there's somebody that has exactly 1 billion, the rule will now be confused on which of the stars to use for them. So this now will be greater than 1 billion. So anybody that has 1 billion will fall in the first group. Anybody that has anything above 1 billion, they're the ones that will be in this group. So greater than 1 billion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is between 1 billion and, what did I say the last time? 1 billion and 10 billion. Okay, let's make this 2. Let's make this 2 billion. So between 2 billion and 10 billion. 2 billion less than or equal to 10 billion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number. And then the last one will now be greater than 10 billion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Number. And then less than or equal to maximum. I don't know what the maximum is, and I don't want to get it wrong. So I just say maximum. And then number. And like I said, there are no hard and fast rules to how to place your less than or equal to. You can decide to have less than here and then have greater than or equal to here. It just depends on your business problem and what you're trying to show. For example, if the cutoff is exactly 59, or if the cutoff is that you have to get above 60, or you have to get 60 and above, then you have to use less than here and then use greater than or equal to in the next group. So again, it depends on the business question. There's no hard and fast rule to use, but just make sure that you're not creating groups that will confuse your analysis. So let's okay this and see what it comes out to. So you can see the people who have, so there's only 2 promos that are the full star of above 10 billion. And then there's about 4 that have half star, and then another 4 that have naked star, or whatever you choose to call it. So this works in different ways. Like, you can use it for percentage, you can use it, and then again, like I said before, you may choose not to use icons. You may choose to use data bars. For example, this is how data bars work. This is like the default, and then you can still use rules to show your data bars and say what colors you want them to be, positive or negative. For example, if some people were making loss, you can decide that the ones that are making loss, they should show red. Fortunately, luckily, there's nobody making loss here anyway, so it still doesn't change. But you can like use other colors to depict that. And you can say you want to show the bar only. You don't even want to see the number. So all of that is just all of the flexibility that makes your work give a lot more information than just the numbers. Because like I always say, the job of a data analyst is not just to build visuals, it's to help executives make data-driven decisions. And the way that executives make data-driven decisions is that they can see insights from data and they can see it in a short time without spending time to look at They can just look at a glance and see, okay, there are two people making above 10 billion. And that's why the numbers you're going to use to set your rules, they are not going to be arbitrary numbers that you're going to just come up with. They're going to be numbers that align with the goals and objectives of the organization. Like the example that I gave before, anybody scoring less than 40% in their appraisal should go for PIP. Anybody scoring above 90% should be promoted. So you use those numbers to set your conditional formatting rules. Then maybe you just have a key that explains, okay, 1 star means PIP, 2 star means promotion, and things like that. So that is conditional formatting. I feel like I should give us an example. Sorry, an assignment on conditional formatting. But we're adults, so there's a lot of other styles here. We cannot cover everything in class. But then, okay, assignment actually. Next week, I'm typing it in the chat. Conditional formatting with web URL application. I'm very big on application because it's one thing to know something and it's another thing to know when to use it. So somebody would do a short demo for us next week, or at least explain when and how to use conditional formatting with web URL. So that's assignment for next week. Assignment for next week. So that's conditional formatting. The final thing that I want us to cover is reference lines. What are reference lines? Reference lines are mostly used with line charts or related column, really time-related visuals. And to do that, let me do a line chart of what kind of data are best shown on line charts. Can anybody that knows, tell us before I decide what kind of data I want to show? Hello? Anybody home? I've been talking to myself.
Okay, Yinka, we can hear you, but
Nobody wants to answer. Yeah, I'll call somebody's name then. Victoria, what kind of data is best shown on a line chart? Victoria, are you there? So nobody wants to tell us what kind of data is best shown on a line chart.
Good evening. I
Good
think
evening.
growth or particular trends. Growth, something that grows or has a trend, like population or something like that.
Something that has a trend.
Yeah.
I like that you said something that has a trend, yeah. But
Or
I
something
don't
that
like
has
that
growth.
I don't like that you're adding growth to it.
Oh, okay.
Because it may not always be growth. So something that has a trend, so that means something that covers a period. So time-related data, something that goes from, say, something that has a trend that shows like maybe January to February to March to April or something that goes maybe year on year from 2021, 2022, 2023. And so why I said it's not always growth is because the reason why we're doing a line chart is because we want to see if we are growing or not. So sometimes it's not growing from one year to the second year to the third year, or it may grow in the first year, the second year it went down, the third year. So it's a trend, like over time, but it's not always growth. Am I making sense?
Yes, got that.
Yeah. So that's the those are the times when you use a line chart. So before I created a line chart, I just wanted to do that quick reminder. So now that we have established the fact that the best time to use a line chart is when showing time related data, I'm going to just show our profits month on month from January to December. But this is going to cover all of the years, but it's fine. Even though I can filter for a specific year, let's leave it at that. But let's do sales again. Or costs, actually. Why not costs? If not, why not? If not, our cost has not been properly formatted. So I will come back here, go to costs. I've been using profit and sales since, so let's use costs now. Change it to 2 decimal places. Okay, so we have our costs month on month. I will take it to the line chart. You know, we can put year here and then have it look like a drill down. I'll be a two-step thing there. The year is not a lot, so I'm not sure I want to use the year. So let's stick to the month. Let's stick to the month. So, of course, you can see, like we said, you can see the trend. Let me add what do they call those balls to its markers so that we can properly see in the data label too. So we can see the trend of how our costs goes month on month. And we can see, of course, at a glance, which month we spend the most. Even though this is just cost as in cost of goods sold, but this could be like your operating expenses. So this line chart shows you which month you spend the most and things like that. Of course, the month we have the highest cost is October and the lowest cost is January. A lot of things can be responsible for that, but that's not the topic of today's discussion. The topic of today's discussion is reference lines. So what are reference lines and why are they of any use to anybody? Reference lines again help you to add more actionable insights to your data. And how do you use reference lines? You need to come here after you have your line charts. Reference lines are mostly used on line charts, even though you can also use them on bar charts and different other, but I feel like personally, I feel like they're most useful on bar charts. Sorry, on line charts. Why is that? This is not showing well. Anyway, so you come here to format your visual, and then you come to lines. I assume it's lines. Okay, no, it's not lines. You come here And then they change these things every day. I mean, so we're always looking for them. Okay, sorry. Come here to insights. What is it called? This analysis insights. So now there are different the reference lines. There are a lot, and there are lots, like I said, and they all have different purposes. So we'll just go through like 2 or 3 of them, and the rest we can go take them as homework. The first one is the y-axis constant line. Once you click on this drop down, you see it here, add line, and you click add line, and you see the line here, y-axis constant line. Immediately you add the line. Sorry, please, give me a few seconds. Sorry. When you finish adding the line, the moment you add the line, it gives you again liberty to change it however you want. The default state for constant lines is that they will be on 0. If you remember, in mathematics or further marks, there was this y is equal to mx plus c formula where m is a constant and stuff like that. So that constant is by default 0 until you say otherwise. So here is where you can change where you want your constant line to be based on anything at all. For example, again, I'm going to use performance to have what they call performance floor. They don't want, the company is saying no matter how bad you perform, don't go below 20 billion or don't go below 5 billion. So you can decide that your y-axis constant line is the value is 2 billion. So you put 2 billion here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then that line moves to 2 billion. And what this does for you is that at a glance, you can see anybody or which month okay, this is cost anyway. You can see which month you're spending less than 2 billion. So for costs, it will usually be a maximum. Whatever you spend, whatever you do, you don't want to spend more than 2 billion. So you can see which months you're spending more than 2 billion. And again, conditional formatting, you can tell this value to change based on any other thing that is happening in your data model. Maybe whatever determines the performance flow is something that you have calculated somewhere. So you can then make this constant line based on whatever the result of that calculation is. So that when that number changes, this will also update. So that's how to use the y-axis constant line. Okay, I'll leave it as 2 billion. Then we'll add another line. So that's the y-axis constant line. And again, you also have the minimum line. minimum line again as okay, set as the minimum line actually stays on what the minimum value is in your data set. We're getting confused because they are all blue. So I'll just change the color of the minimum line to say purple so we can see the difference. And let me just also change it from dashed to dotted. So we can differentiate the minimum line from the y-axis constant line. So the minimum line basically just stays on what the minimum value is and just shows you, okay, this is the lowest value in your visual or in your line charts, whatever your visual is. So now that we know what the minimum line is, what is the maximum line? Where does the maximum line stay? Hello, anybody home?
Hello, we're here.
What does the maximum line show? Looks like someone is speaking, but the person is breaking. Anyways, not to waste time, the maximum line stays on the maximum value, just opposite of the minimum line. And as usual, you can edit it to whatever color or style you want it to be. And then what series you want it to apply to. Do you want to apply to the total cost in case you have any other, if it's like a double line chart that you have other series. And you can put on the data label so that it tells you exactly what value that line stands for. The last one that I will explain is the average line and the median line. And I'm going to ask a question, and I don't know, somebody has to answer. Because this is actually a very crucial concept that some people struggle with, but I always try to help people to understand it and know. So can anybody, anyway, I'm going to call names. If nobody answers, I'm just going around calling everybody. What's the difference between, just by normal English or by normal basic statistics, what's the difference between average and median? Or you can explain average and then explain median and leave us to figure out the difference. Is Gloria guest the same as Cheska? Gloria. So that I don't call you. Okay, yeah, I think so because I heard your voice earlier. So Lara has been answering all the questions. Chigozie and Grace, I haven't heard your voice. Victoria too. Hi, Grace. Hello, Grace, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Is that the hand of Esau and the voice of Moses?
Sorry?
Average and median, basic statistics.
Okay. Average is counting. Let me say, for example, we're giving like 15 numbers. So count the numbers, like the numbers added together, they divided by the amount of the number given.
Okay.
Yes. Then median is the middle number.
So if I have 1, 2, and 3 now, or let's say, okay, if I have 1, 2, and 3, the average is what?
2 plus 1 plus 2 divided by 2.
I said 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
It's 2.
1.
The median is 2.
Oh, okay, that one is not working. So let's say I have 1, 3, 3. What's the average?
1, 3, 3.
And
Yeah.
1 plus 3 divided by 3.
Okay, so 1 plus 3 divided by 3. So that will give us like 3 times 2, 6 plus 1, 7 divided by 3. That will be 2 point something,
It's 2
something,
points.
something.
That's the average.
Then what's the median?
It's 3, the middle value.
The middle value. Thank you, Grace and Chigozie. People have done group work, which is fine.
Thank you.
So it's just easier for people to understand when you use that kind of example, because people tend to mix it up. People tend to think that average and median may be the same, but they are not the same. Average is average, just like we explained, and median is the middle number. Median does not necessarily serve as a representation of the whole, but average is, that's statistics anyway, but average can serve as a representation of the whole. And as you can see, what happens when you start using lines is that you can see all these ones that have 1, 1, 1. It means that you have added one minimum line and one maximum line to your data. So I want to remove some of this before I add the others. So I'll leave the y-axis constant line and the maximum line. So I'll add the average line. So now you can see the average of your data and change the color to whatever. Let's make it yellow. And then dashed and whatever. The average of which series, transparency, blah, 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 all of that. Then you can also add the data label if you want to know what the average is. Then I will now add the median line. Sorry, yeah, the median line. So you can see that the median line is definitely different from the average line. They're not the same. It could be higher, it could be lower. Of course, all of that depends on your data sets. Final question. The percentile line. The percentile line is actually equal to, okay, well, it's not always equal to, actually. But your percentile is another representation of, if you have ever heard of, in some exams when you take, they don't have a cutoff, they only have a percentile. So they'll say the percentile pass is maybe 80%, which means that 80% of the people who wrote the exams passed and 20% failed. Like if you've ever written something like CFA, when they announce your score, they will now, when they send you your score, they say something like, oh, you're in the top 40% of the exam participants this year. So that's what percentile is. Is in the same family with, I don't want to call the name because I'm going to ask us as a question. He's in the same family with another of the lines that we have looked at. The difference is just that instead of it being at the center, you can specify where you want it to be, either 20%, 50%, 100%, 80%. And that's why you come to, how do you say that? You come to where you have this line. So the automatic one that was created for us was 90%. So this line, this is percentile line here. Let's change the color to, I've used orange too much. Let me go and look for more colors. Let me use red. Red is not a good color to use for things, except they are bad things. But let me just use red in this case. So the percentile here is, this is the 90th percentile. This point is called the 90th percentile. So let's say we want to change it. I want to change it to the 40th percentile. Just put 40 here. Goes down to the 40th percentile. I want to change it to the 45th percentile, 46th percentile. It's just be moving like that, like that, like that, like that, to like that. As you're increasing it, it will be moving up until it gets to the 100th percentile. The 100th percentile is the maximum. Did you remove that minimum line? Okay, we've removed it. So my question is now, the zeroth. How am I like this? Let me put 70 here. Why is this thing having a mind of its own? 7, 0. So question, the 0th percentile, 50th percentile, and the 100th percentile, they are the same as 3 other lines in these reference lines that we have mentioned. So one person each will tell me which of them is equal to the 0th percentile, which is equal to the 100th percentile, and which is equal to the 50th percentile. So yeah, no group work this time. Everybody just pick one and answer it.
The 100th percentile is the maximum line.
Okay, next person, 50th percentile.
That should be the median line.
Median line. Thank you so much. Because somebody can go and mix it up and think it's average. But again, it's not average, because what percentile does is it arranges your data sets by order of smallest to largest or largest to smallest, and the case may be, and then assigns percentiles to them. So the 100th percentile, who is remaining that has not answered? What's the 100th percentile equal to? Hello? What's the 100th percentile equal to? Which of the reference lines?
Average. Am I right?
Nope. Nope. Nope.
I thought we said it's the maximum line.
Now I said it now. You're not telling me average again. I gave you expo. So like I said, the 0th percentile is the minimum line, the 50th percentile is the median, and the 100th percentile is the maximum line. Now, those ones may look like, so why would I use a percentile line? Just depends on a lot of things that you're trying to show. But the beauty or the real life application of percentile lines come in when you're trying to show things like the 20th percentile. That way you can't use the minimum line, you can't use any of those other ones. So you can, the percentile line gives you that flexibility to move it around to whatever you want it to show. And in real life, it just happens when you're doing an exam and you know that you want to pick only the top 20% of the participants. Then you can just use that percentile line to see how many people are in the top 20%, how many people are in the top 40%. If it's half, you just use the median line. But what if it's not half? You want to see top 35%. Percentile line gives you that level of flexibility. And that's what all of these lines are about. Second assignment, error bars. People should just read it and how to apply it. And that brings us to the end of this week's class. We are still, next week, we're still going to continue on analysis, where we're going to do things that are a bit more complex, like play axis, grouping and binning, and things like that. So that's the end of today's class. I will now take questions. We'll continue using this file. That's why I'm saving it. Does anybody have any questions from everything that we've done today? Anybody have any questions from what we have done today? I don't see any hands. I didn't hear any voices. Please don't forget your homework. Application of conditional formatting with web URL. That's what I'm going to ask next week before we start next week's class. And I like to give homeworks because you actually remember something that you learned by yourself more than something that somebody taught you. It's something that has worked for me so far, and I think that it will also help you guys. So please, I will be expecting a demo next week, Saturday. Since there are no hands, thanks for joining us today. And thanks for being consistent. And thanks for encouraging us to keep showing up. Thank you, Gloria, for joining me and supporting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks, Yinka.
yeah.
Okay. Good night,
And
everyone.
good
Bye. Have
night
a
and
nice
enjoy
weekend.
the
Thank
rest of
you.
your weekend.
Thank you so much. Thank you.